Good evening. My name is Jim Patrie. I'm doing an interview with Suzanne Richmond for my class in TEEL 231, Human Growth and Development. And we're going to be doing an interview on middle adulthood with Susan. So, hello, Susan. Thanks for taking the time out to do this interview for me, to get this class completed for me. And I appreciate your time and efforts. So, to start off with, the first question I have for you, and I'm sorry to ask this, it's not proper for a gentleman to ask a lady this, but can you state your age?
I am 54
Thank you.
years of age.
54 years young and looking great. Thank you. Can you state any visible signs of aging you have noticed that are happening at this time in your life? For instance, like wrinkles, hair loss, weight gain, etc.
Well, I imagine there are a few wrinkles. I've been getting Botox for the last couple of years in my forehead because of the wrinkle that's right between your two eyebrows there. I probably don't exercise quite as much as I did at one time because of a different schedule. So I noticed that things are a little different, but I haven't really noticed any major changes.
Okay.
Another physical change is visual impairment. I started with glasses about age 40, and I noticed every other year or so my prescription needs to be increased a little bit so that my vision is still good to read and to do everything else I need to do.
Okay. I appreciate that. Another question would be for you is, does your family have hereditary, any heart problems, cancer, or any kind of physical issues that may have been passed on that you're feeling now? And if you are aware of those signs and symptoms, what are they?
So, as far as my family, there's been a few family members. I have a grandfather who passed away with lung cancer. He was pretty young. The other three of my grandparents all passed away at almost 90, and then my grandmother, I have one grandmother who was 93. She had a few ailments, some congestive heart failure, some diabetes, but quite frankly, very often once someone is in their late 80s or 90s, it's not unusual for them to have those types of medical problems. My dad has been diagnosed with Parkinson's. He has also been diagnosed with diabetes and some high cholesterol and high blood pressure. He manages those with medications. My mom has been pretty healthy, except she did have uterine cancer a few years back, had to have surgery and then some radiation therapy. I haven't had really any of those types of ailments myself. I do have an underactive thyroid, so I take medication for that. I have a history of migraines. Actually, my mom has migraines as well. So that is something that may be a little bit more hereditary. And that's really about it. So I haven't noticed any of those things. I do know all the signs and symptoms of diabetes and Parkinson's and heart disease because I am a nurse. So I, would be pretty aware if I saw any of those signs and symptoms myself.
So now part of the questioning, and we're talking about hereditary, do you think, like the migraines and the thyroid condition, has that been passed on to any of your two children? Do you think, have they exhibited any of those?
Yes, my oldest daughter, both daughters have migraines. They have had them for several years, and my oldest daughter has an underactive thyroid as well.
Okay. And you're being looked at for that, and it's under constant watch to make sure it doesn't get any worse.
Yes.
Good to hear. Well,
the other thing I didn't mention was my mother's had both knees replaced, and I have osteoarthritis in my knees as well. It's very minor. I really don't take any kind of medication for it. I sort of have to modify exercise a little bit, and I might take an occasional Advil or something, but that is probably hereditary as well.
Very good. Thank you for that. And I know sharing health stuff is a privacy thing, and I appreciate that, especially being in the military. HIPAA. So thank you for that.
Yes.
Next question I would like to ask you is, since entering this stage of life, have you noticed any cognitive, intellectual decline in how you make decisions of remembering things? For example, like verbal memory loss or gain spatial skills, inductive reasoning, your vocabulary?
Yes. I have noticed that sometimes it's a little difficult to find the right word that I might be looking for. I think I work full time. I have to think all day, so I think that's been, at least assisting me in staying pretty cognitively fit. But I do know that there's a little difference in, recalling certain words. I don't think that it affects my judgment at all. It just makes communication, maybe a little bit slightly changed.
How about do you find that any spatial skills or inductive reasoning, or you feel like everything's still pretty much intact?
That, yes, it's more finding a word or something like that. That's probably what I notice the most. I also have noticed, and I know my peers that I work with have sort of noticed the same thing. Sometimes when trying to remember a number or like a phone number, looking at a phone number on a piece of paper and then dialing, the number or putting, touch tone, putting the number in, you may transpose two of the numbers. And I have colleagues that say that, that was never an issue with them. But they've noticed the last few years that they, occasionally do something like that.
Unfortunately, I can identify. Okay. Well, thank you for that. The next question I want to ask you is, have you any relationship changes, like with others, since entering this stage of life, like with a spouse, significant other? Obviously doesn't apply to you. Parents, children, coworkers, and neighbors. Like empty nesters, children returning home, anything with intrinsic value, etc.
I do think there's changes. I think for me, especially recently, I've been thinking of things from my childhood that that my parents had done for me. Most recently, I remember the first time my dad brought home a 10-speed bike for me. It was a surprise. He brought it home. I didn't know that he even was going to get this bike for me, and it was something I really wanted. So I remember that. I recently thanked my mother for being so patient with all of the crafts and things I used to want to do when I was growing up, the, paint by number and candle making and all the things, because as a mother now I look at how messy those things can be. And I'm very appreciative that she allowed me to express my creativity, and she was patient and didn't try to, squash some of that, because I think it may have, changed me as a person. And I really, looking back, I appreciate that. So I think my relationship with my parents, I think I appreciate them more all the time. I value what they've done for me. I know it wasn't easy a lot of times, and they weren't perfect. I'm sure they would probably do things a little differently, just like I would do as a mother. There's a few things that I would, do a little differently, but I think, looking back, I see a lot of what they did, and I appreciate it.
How about children? Did you have any children leave the nests? Any children did leave and come back? How does that affect you?
Well, yes, I had my children leave home. One didn't leave home until last year when she was about 27. So she lived with myself and my husband through high school, through college, and at about age 27, she moved out with a boyfriend that she's had for the last 8 years. My oldest daughter, right after college, moved to New Orleans and then moved back after a couple of years. And there's been a few times that she's moved out on her own and then come back home. She's currently back home. I like having them around. I have a good relationship with them. There are times that I notice as I'm getting older that I maybe don't like too much emotion or drama, so I find that, I'm kind of settling in a little bit, and I like things to be pretty drama-free. Not that my kids are a lot of drama, but, there are some times when I would like to sort of distance myself from some of their day-to-day things. But I try to be a good listener. I know my mom has always been there for me, so I try to do the same thing, not be judgmental, and they still ask me for my advice, so as long as they're still asking, I'm going to give them my honest opinion, and I'm glad that they're still asking.
Mm-hmm. How did you feel when your eldest first left the first time? Did you have a void? Did you adapt?
Well, I think I adapted. Obviously, I missed her. I was concerned because it was from Rhode Island to New Orleans, Louisiana. She did go with someone, a steady boyfriend that she had, so I knew they would sort of take care of each other a little bit. But I also had one daughter still at home, so I think it was a little easier to adapt because I still had one daughter, at home. And but I was always glad to see her. I was glad when she came back home. I mean, I want her to be happy, whether it's here or wherever it is, but I was glad to have her, come back home. But you do worry.
Yep. Well, good. Thank you for that. As you mentioned earlier in this interview that you're a nurse, so can you state to me what kind of nurse you are at this time in your career, and if you're comfortable with the content of your career, why or why not, and do you envision any advances or changes in the future, and why not?
So I'm a nurse for the VA Medical Center in Providence, Rhode Island, but I actually see veterans in their homes. I've been working in home care for at least the last 25 years, so it's been something that I've done quite a while. I've been at the VA 10 years in their home care department. In the last 10 years, I finished my bachelor's degree, I finished my master's degree, I have a board certification, I have a certificate in case management, and then I also have a wound care certification. So in the last 10 years, I really value education. I try to constantly, improve my skills in education. I'm considering a position in the state nurses organization to run for a position in the state nurses organization. So I do like to take opportunities that come up that I think will be good for me. I noticed as I'm getting older, I enjoy having nursing students and giving back a little bit to the profession that has been so good to me. As far as advancement, I'm not sure what I'm going to do exactly in the future. I'm quite content with, what I'm doing now. But if an opportunity arises and it's something that interests me, I would do that. So I like to just get involved in projects and keep busy all the time.
Well, that's awesome, and I'm on behalf of all veterans, including myself, I cannot thank you all for all you do for us, because, as you know, some of our veterans don't get all the help they get, and with nurses like you around, we're in good hands. So thanks for that. I got two more questions. We'll be done. So hang in there. What lifestyle choices? And now we'll do the health stuff. What lifestyle choices have you had a strong impact on your health status, like exercise, diet, habits? And if you could change your choices from the past, what lifestyle choices would you have changed? So if you used to smoke, do you not smoke now, for example? Did you used to exercise a lot and you don't do now, or vice versa, something like that?
So I did smoke for about 15 years on and off. I quit about 25 years ago, and that was probably the best decision I have ever made for my health. I try to eat healthy. I limit portions. I believe that, moderation is really what's most important. I'm pretty physically active, doing home repairs and working outside. I try to go to the gym twice a week to do spin and get some cardio. So I try to eat well. I definitely try to sleep well, and exercise as much as I can, but enjoy at the same time.
Okay, and drinking is not an issue or stuff like that?
No,
Drink in moderation?
Maybe have one drink a month.
Good. Okay, and the last question, do you predict you will have, or have you felt you have an experience of a midlife crisis? And if you haven't,
No.
how do you envision what it would be like if you haven't had one yet, or are you preparing for it, or are you just waiting for it to happen if it does happen?
No, I don't foresee having a midlife crisis. I feel pretty comfortable with where I am. I really don't foresee that. My life is pretty stable and I'm pretty comfortable. I've been working with geriatrics all my career, which is like the last 35, 40 years. And maybe seeing people age. I mean, there's pluses and there's minuses, but I know what to expect. And age is a number. We're all going to age, and I just accept it as it comes along.
Yep. Well, it's very good. So you're pretty grounded in your confidence in yourself, and that's good. So you won't have to worry about you going on some kind of reconciling, polarizing activity. Like some guys do, buy a new car and look at my sports car and stuff like that. Yeah. Well, good.
Well, I think as you get older, you sometimes might worry if you're going to have the chance to do all the things that you've wanted to do all your life. So I probably should make a little bit more of an effort to, go on vacation. Sometimes you can get comfortable and a little lazy and not necessarily go out and do some of the things that you want to do. So I'm going to try to focus a little bit more on, enjoying things. I have a lot of vacation time. I don't always take it. So I think going forward, that's going to be something that I'm going to make a priority.
Well, thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule. I know you work full time and work late, so appreciate you taking out time. Do you have any last minute thoughts of something you want to do a reattack?
Nope. I think everything's been pretty comprehensive.
Okay. Well, I appreciate everything you've done for this, and I'm hoping it'll go well. So thanks for taking the time, and I appreciate your efforts.
Anytime.